Welcome everyone. A memorial tribute to Tupac's 25th death anniversary. This is a event that is put on by Nahshon Dion. And Nahshon, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you very much. Again, everyone, we are being recorded for Zoom, and the grantor, the New York City Arts Corp, may request a copy of this because they are funding the event. Thank you all for joining us on this special occasion honoring Tupac on the 25th anniversary of his death. During the summer of 1996, Tupac was at my high school prom in Los Angeles, and I was able to ask him about opportunities in film and television production, and he referred me to his business partner, Tracy Danielle Robinson at the time, who was, it was her company called Look Here Productions. And that summer I started an internship with Tracy Danielle Robinson. In June, I hosted a virtual 50th celebration for Tupac with Leila Steinberg, his former mentor and manager, and Tracy Danielle Robinson, his business partner. And that was a success. It was really good. It lasted for 2.5 hours. Some of the very same participants that are with us today were at the same event. We all read excerpts from Tupac's book, 1991 poetry book, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. That same month, I became aware of an NYC Artist Corps grant, and Leila and Tracy, they both supported me in applying for the grant. And again, some of the prior participants who were with us before, who are making and creating much needed change in the world, are with us tonight as well. We have some new folks and members of the Truth About Tupac community, and the founder is Asher Underwood. And so the first person that I was going to introduce tonight was going to be Tracy Danielle Robinson. She is running late. She's going to be joining us. And so we had to change the program around just a bit. Instead of me introducing Tracy Danielle Robinson, I will be introducing Peggy Robles Alvarado. So I believe Peggy Robles Alvarado is a Dominican and Puerto Rican Jerome Hill Foundation Fellow in Literature, a 2-time Pushcart Prize nominee, and a 2020 Atticus Review Poetry Contest winner. She is also a Brio Award winner with fellowships from Canto Mundo, Desert Nights Rising Stars, The Frost Place, and Bona. With advanced degrees in education and an MFA in performance studies, this former teen mother and initiated priestess in Lukumi and Paolo celebrates womanhood and honors cultural rituals. She's a 3-time International Latino Book Award winner who authored Conversations with My Skin and Homage to the Warrior Women. Through Robles Writes Productions, she created La Libreta Online, the Abuela Stories Project, and Mujeres, The Magic, The Movement, and The Muse. Peggy's poetry appears online and has also been published in several anthologies.
Thank you. Nahshon, thank you for inviting me back to the second event. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm gonna open up by reading the preface of the book, The Rose That Grew from Concrete, which is the poetry of Tupac Shakur. And I must say, Iba Iba Ye, which is to honor the ancestors that have passed to the other dimension. And I will be reading the words of his mother, Afeni Shakur. Celebrate life through the music, through the spoken word, through the splatter of color on paper or wood or iron or canvas, but celebrate your life. Celebrate your ability to feel joy and sadness. Celebrate your ability to feel. Only then will we be free to feel. I thank God and all my ancestors for the artistic Tupac, for the poetic Tupac. There was never a day when Tupac did not appreciate language. The sound and the rhythm of words did not intimidate him. He sought to interpret the world using all the visual and linguistic tools available to him. The battle between the discipline of intellect and the ravings of a soul is a fascinating one. These poems were written from 1989 to 1991, reflecting the heart and soul of my son. They represent the process of a young artist's journey to understand and accept a world of unthinkable contradictions. I always believed Tupac's work can and does speak for itself. I have nothing to add or detract. My responsibility is to do all that I can to make sure he has heard and is heard in venues and milieus that are appropriate to what he himself gave to his life and his work. Tupac put these poems in the safekeeping of Leila Steinberg, who was Tupac's first professional manager and adult friend. We are indebted to Leila for her integrity in looking after the safety of Tupac's work. Her loyalty has allowed us the ability to offer this work in this medium. Tupac had quite a few friends whose actions regarding his artistic integrity reflect a subconscious belief that he is still in the room. We thank all those of his peers, friends, and business associates who continue to act as though Tupac were still in the room. Thank you, my wonderful son. You're a perfect mirror of my soul. When you are not here, I measure the space you used to occupy. Large areas become vast and endless deserts of you, not there. Afeni Shakur, Iba Ibaye.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. And thank you for making the time to join us again. I know today was your son's first day at school, right?
Yeah, it's been hectic, but I'm so happy to be here and to honor the legacy of Tupac. And thank you, Leila Steinberg, Naomi, and Nahshon, and Jackie for putting this all together and making his legacy stand today.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have to, again, thank the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs for funding us. And so now I am going to introduce Asher Underwood. Asher Underwood created Truth About Tupac in 2009 as an extension of his graduate thesis on comparative mythology through the contemporary context of Black Jesus, Machiavelli, and Tupac Amaru. In 2010, Truth About Tupac formed a partnership with Bigger Productions and helped facilitate the online casting of Demetrius Shipp Jr., who played Tupac in All Eyes on Me. In 2014, Truth About Tupac became certified YouTube-based studio producers that have been referenced in Forbes, Hollywood Reporter, A&E, also working with Darius Love on Straight Outta Compton's Tupac voiceover. Asher built a career over the last decade in content production and digital marketing, working with notable artists such as Earl Sweatshirt, Little Flip, Corrupt, Fana Hughes, Darius Love, and more. In 2021, Asher co-launched the Truth About Tupac podcast and reignited the movement for Tupac's 50th birthday. Currently, Asher is working with startup Agua Technology and manages the prolific artist activist Land is Rising. Asher Underwood.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. And do I go into my piece yet?
No, not yet. What you're going to do is you're going to read you're reading the foreword by Nikki Giovanni.
Okay.
Do you have the book in front of you?
I do.
Okay, yeah, so it's right after the preface. Tupac, see you in heaven. Yeah.
I'm glad this collection of poetry of Tupac Shakur is being published. Those of us who recognize not only genius, but light, knew early on that young Shakur was special. He lit up the screen in juice and above the rim. His raps were tight and strong. We all said to ourselves, something good is coming. I guess it will always be the case that when someone brings a new idea, or more accurately, a truthful idea, there will be complaints. There will always be those people, especially those people who are wrong, who try to shut the truth and daring down. I remember when the Sugar Hill Gang started the new rap revolution, and they were fun. Grandmothers in stupid movies could imitate their rap, and old men could return from cocoon and break dance. It was just so, well, cute to play off rap. Then along came Tupac. You don't see any senior takeoffs on his art. You don't see Hume Cronin and his friends hip-hopping down the street to holler if you hear me. No garden parties with grandma bopping up to something to die for. So they found a name, gangster rap, to somehow distinguish it from what? Polite, nice, highly compromised rap? They tried to isolate that beautiful boy who was trying to bring on the truth so they could flood us with lies and excuses. People will still stand up and say really stupid things like, I don't think profane language should be used, or they are always cursing and stuff. And I think they can make their point without bad language. But I always think bad language is school vouchers, lower taxes on capital gains, don't ask, don't tell, and language like that, which silently or not so silently kills people who are different from what we want to think we are, but who in truth are not so different after all. Children have to be educated. The correct citizens to pay taxes are those who have money. People have a right to their own hearts, but mostly what I keep seeing is the emptiness of lives that have nothing better to do than judge and condemn. Tupac once said, "Only God can judge me." I say good for him. He had taken that step to understand that no matter what any of them say, you have an obligation to the universe to follow your own muse. I like Tupac Shakur in the same way I like Prince when he was Prince, when he wrote music that was a bit edgy, a bit out there, a bit daring. Whatever turned that beautiful boy, the rude boy, into a whiny symbol should rot in 5 different hells. Tupac stayed fresh and strong and committed to himself and his people. Yet, as this collection shows, he was a sensitive soul. The poems for the lovers in this life, for his mother, for his child in heaven, show a boy who touches our souls. This too is Tupac. Just as people want to make Malcolm X an integrationist, thereby changing the nature of his daring and his truth, people want us to overlook the sensitivity and love Tupac Shakur shows, because after all, if he loves, he cries. If he cares, if he, in other words, is not a monster, then what have we done? What a great crime has been committed in the name of what? The status quo? How awful and ugly of us. One day, in the not too distant future, there will be a gathering in Atlanta, much like the one in Memphis. You remember Memphis and Graceland? The Postmaster General of the United States invited Elvis family members to unveil the artist concept of Elvis. There was an 800 number for the young, pretty, slim Elvis and another 800 number for the fat, drugged out Elvis. We, the public, were invited to phone in our choice that would be the stamp. When the Malcolm X stamp was chosen, there was no gathering at Betty Shabazz home. No calling the girls, Malcolm and Betty's daughters, together with the Postmaster General. No artist conception inviting the public to choose between a smiling Malcolm and that frowny, ugly thing they produced. No choice between a Malcolm and a Betty stamp and a Malcolm by himself stamp. In fact, as usual, white people decided what black people should want and did as they wished with the image of our hero. The Tupac stamp must go public. We, the public, demand the right to make the choices. I want an image of a thoughtful Tupac with the words, "See you in heaven. He deserves to be taken seriously, and we must therefore mourn." Nikki Giovanni.
Thank you, Asher. So you'll read your poem towards the end. Your poem selections towards the end. I just want to remind everybody, can you mute your microphones until it's time for you to speak, so that when the person who's speaking, we can fully hear them without any background chatter. So just a reminder, just to mute your speakers until it's time for you to speak, please. Thank you. Leila Steinberg, through the work developed with Tupac over 2 decades ago, fuses creative expression, social medicine, and behavioral science. She holds over 3 decades of artistry, producing, community organizing, management, projects, and many titles to her credit. In addition to being the mother of 4 and a grandmother, she now dedicates herself full-time to her nonprofit organization, Aim for the Heart. Leila's work has drawn from street culture as well as transcendental understanding of art's power to heal and improve emotional states and behavior. With the release of her Heart Education, Emotional Literacy Curriculum, Leila will expand her speaking and training nationally and internationally to give people tools to heal from trauma, violence, and embrace their full potential as human beings and to be healthy members of society. Leila Steinberg.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Nahshon, for organizing this. I appreciate the work that's done to keep Tupac alive in our hearts and to have these conversations. And it's interesting that I'm going to read what I wrote so long ago. I think that if I was to write it now, it would be different. But I'm going to share what I wrote and realize that it's not 2 decades ago, it's over 3 decades ago. It's been a long time. And it's crazy to me that he's been gone 25 years. So, introduction. Tupac felt that through art, we could incite a new revolution that incorporated the heart, mind, body, spirit, and soul. He wanted his art to instill honesty, integrity, and respect. It was the spring of 1989 in Marin City when a young man with fan-like eyelashes, overflowing charisma, and the most infectious laugh began to make his way into my life. I was sitting on the grass outside Bayside Elementary School reading Winnie Mandela's Part of My Soul Went With Him. A young man with big, beautiful, sparkling eyes came up behind me, quoting lines aloud from the book. It fascinated me that he knew the lines by heart. When he introduced himself as Tupac, I realized he was a Tupac that friends had spoken to me about. A writer and producer working in the music industry, and he was an aspiring rapper looking for a manager. I did not have time to speak at length with him then because I had a class to teach, a multicultural educational program, Young Imaginations. However, I was so impressed with him that I invited him to sit in on our class. After class, Tupac began to share his ideas on how the arts could be included in school curriculum to help youth address some of the issues that they were experiencing in their lives. By combining art with education, Tupac felt we could begin to heal society's pain and confusion. I later invited him to participate in the writing circle I had at my home. His first time there, he immediately wanted not what I wanted. One of the first poems Tupac wrote with us, The Rose That Grew From Concrete, tells you a great deal about him in just a few lines. Tupac was the rose that grew in spite of all obstacles. His life shows that a young boy could rise, shine, grow, and bloom beyond overbearing conditions to become one of America's most beloved men. He also had the grace to make it look easy. Tupac's accomplishments in 25 years far surpass what most people do in 3 of his lifetimes. These poetry circles continued for a long time. We were all broken, struggling, but Tupac was the only one who had ever really tasted poverty. Only he could take potatoes when there was no meat and make the best tacos you ever tasted. Only he could make a gourmet meal out of top ramen noodles. He was a genius who became the group's greatest inspiration. Within 4 weeks of our meeting, Tupac appointed me his manager. It has been several years since Tupac passed, and a day does not go by that I don't think about him. I have kept a collection of the many poems he wrote during the time of our poetry circle. The following poems show a side of Tupac that popular culture has yet to realize existed. Pensive, introspective, loving, and concerned about world affairs. There is no better way to get inside the mind and heart of an artist than to examine his artistic expressions. I hope these poems allow those who are fascinated by Tupac to see his sensitivity, insight, and revolutionary mind, fears, passion, and sense of humor. Tupac's stature and recognition as a rapper is clear and unequivocal. However, his place as a literary artist and poet has yet to be recognized. I hope these poems, which Tupac wrote from his heart, will encourage people to take the first steps necessary to see his literary importance, as well as have us acknowledge the life struggles of a young Black man. Written when Tupac was 19, this poetry is free from the restraints of the music industry and all the monetary pressures. It is free of the anger that came from getting shot, betrayed, and thrown in jail for a crime I believe he never committed. It is Tupac before fame. For the past 7 years, Tupac's writings have been one of my most powerful teaching tools. I've participated in programs in schools, youth facilities, and a number of prisons all over the country. My most exciting work began in 1997 when Arvon invited me to participate in History 98, the poetry and history of Tupac Shakur. This class was a class Arvon was developing at UC Berkeley. Students from all races and backgrounds participated, discussing such issues as single parenting and poverty. Students in universities throughout the country have requested the teaching material that Arvon compiled to initiate their own Tupac curriculum. Tupac was finally being recognized by academia. In the summer of '98, I assisted Afeni, Tupac's mother, in developing the first annual summer youth conference, Life Goes On. We spent more than a weekend in Sparta, Georgia, using Tupac's lyrics to conduct workshops that resulted in bringing new life into the hearts and minds of those in attendance. Participants traveled from all over the nation to take advantage of the healing tools Tupac left us, his words. The following August, I was invited as a delegate to the International Women's Convention in Johannesburg, South Africa, to conduct a workshop with Enid Pickett on the power of art in education. Once again, the curriculum was based around Tupac's writings. I have since been invited to the Netherlands and Costa Rica to conduct similar programs. Now Tupac's work, and especially these poems, are available to the public. I hope that they can attract the attention of those who have not given Tupac a fair chance, the same people who are quick to judge Tupac based on the media's sometimes negative portrayal. Tupac's poems can teach us about the universal needs that textbooks rarely address. Poems such as And Tomorrow and Still I Wait for Dawn speak of the need to survive and wait for a better day. They also teach us that humanity as a whole suffers if anyone starves. Unfortunately, it took his death to teach us that when one man dies, we all bleed. Thank you.
Leila, thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us again and for making this possible. We appreciate your voice and all the work that you do. And later on, I hope she discusses emotional literacy and her heart curriculum. Jackie Reason is an Afro-Caribbean writer raised in the Bronx before it became the Boogie Down. Reason is a poet, playwright, Black feminist, and lifelong educator. She is in pre-production of her original stage play, Under the Bridge. Reason co-curates a monthly storytelling series in Brooklyn, New York, and co-edits the Community Writing Project Journal. Jackie's greatest love remains spending time with family and being an influencer in the lives of her 8 grandchildren. Her poetry is published in online magazines and the Bronx Memoir Project Volumes 2 and 3. Jacqueline Reason's essays, House Parties, is the first prize winner of the Writing Black Joy contest. You can follow her on Instagram at RealJackie.
Nahshon and everyone. And as I said, we are happy to be in community tonight with everyone on this ominous occasion. So I'm going to read 2 of Tupac's pieces, and then I'm going to introduce a number of our guests this evening. The first piece is called Things That Make Hearts Break. Things that make hearts break. Pretty smiles, deceiving laughs, and people who dream with their eyes open. Lonely children, unanswered cries, and souls who have given up hoping. The other thing that breaks hearts are fairy tales that never come true. Your hero falls for grace. All fairy tales are uncovered. Myths exposed and pain magnified. the greatest pain discovered. You taught me to be strong, but I'm confused to see you so weak. You said never to give up, and it hurts to see you welcome defeat. When your hero falls, so do the stars, and so does the perception of tomorrow. Without my hero, there is only me alone to deal with my sorrow. Your heart ceases to work, and your soul is not happy at all. What are you expected to do when your only hero falls? Thank you. I should say thank Tupac for those pieces. I picked that second piece because I think there's a point for all of us when we realize that our parents are human beings, just normal folks. The next person that I'm going to introduce is Hiram Sims. Hiram was born and raised in various parts of Los Angeles, is a poet, essayist, and creative writing professor, teaching with the Community Literature Initiative. He graduated from the University of Southern California and received a BA in English, creative writing, and a master's of professional writing and poetry. In addition to teaching essay writing, creative writing, and literature, he has published 3 collections of poetry, including Poems of a Young Troubled Mind, Write or Die, an anthology of poetry from the Urban Poets Workshop, and Phototry, Poetry and Photography from South Central, and his creative writing textbook, These Pages Speak. He is the co-founder of World Stage Press and founder of the Sims Library of Poetry, boasting the largest collection of poetry in Los Angeles, California. Hiram Sims.
Hey everyone, thank you for inviting me to the event. And it's just, as others have said, it's an honor to be here. I wanted to read a poem called Just a Breath of Freedom. Held captive for your politics, they wanted to break your soul. They ordered the extermination of all minds they couldn't control. For you, the fate was far worse than just a brutal homicide. They caged you like an animal and watched you slowly die inside. As you breathe your first air of freedom, on the day you become a free man, raise your regal brow in pride, for now you are in God's hands. The life of many were given so that the day would one day come that the devils in power at Pretoria would pay for the evil crimes they've done. That's for Nelson Mandela. And one thing I just wanted to say about this poem is it's just that poetry has the power to sustain life in the midst of great trauma and adversity. And Nelson Mandela read a poem every day while he was in prison called Invictus, written by William Ernest Henley. And many of you know that poem. And William Ernest Henley wrote that while spending 3 years in an infirmary, in a hospital, begging the doctor not to take his other leg because they had already amputated one. So I think that's such an interesting lineage of poems, Invictus, inspiring Nelson Mandela to keep going. And then this poem written in praise of Nelson Mandela's release. The next poem I'm gonna read is called So I Say Goodbye. I'm going into this not knowing what I'll find, but I've decided to follow my heart and abandon my mind. And if there be pain, I know that at least I gave my all, and it is better to have loved and lost than to not love at all. In the morning, I may wake to smile or maybe to cry, but first to those of my past, I must say goodbye. All right, and I just wanted to lastly say that this book is one of the most checked out books here at the Sims Library of Poetry. So thank you, Tupac, and thank you, Leila, and everyone else involved in creating it.
Thank you, Hiram. Our next reader is Naiku. Naiku is a rapper, singer, poet, and producer from Oakland, California. At age 8, he appeared in Snoop Dogg's music video, Che Bay. Naiku started rapping at age 9 at his local youth club. He fell in love with music and performing at age 11 when he performed his first show at school. Putting a smile on someone's face, uniting a room, and helping people heal is his motivation. He has performed and recorded with an array of artists and been on stages in the US and Europe. He is devoted to using his music to make a difference in the world. In May of 2014, Naiku released a self-produced track about survival called Traffic.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you for the introduction. I'm just gonna read 2 poems by Tupac and a little bit of why I felt and chose these ones. So the first one is, can you see the pride in the Panther? And I chose this one because first off, the title of it, and second off, because I just felt like it would relate to me in some type of way, because, you know, Tupac related to everybody. So this is the first one. Can you see the pride in the Panther as he grows in splendor and grace, toppling obstacles placed in the way of the progression of his race? Can you see the pride in the Panther as she nurtures her young all alone? The seed must grow regardless of the fact that it is planted in stone. Can you see the pride in the Panthers as they unify as one? The flower blooms with brilliance and outshines the rays of the sun. That's the end of that one. I'll read this other one real quick. And I'm on nerves and shit. This one's called I Cry. And it goes, I'm nervous reading Tupac's poem as if I wrote it. No, but here it goes right here. Look, sometimes when I'm alone, I cry because I'm on my own. The tears I cry are bitter and warm. They flow with life, but take no form. I cry because my heart is torn and I find it difficult to carry on. If I had an ear to confide in, I would cry among my treasured friends, but who do you know that stops that long to help another carry on? The world moves fast and it would rather pass you by than to stop and see what makes you cry. It's painful and sad. Sometimes I cry and no one cares about why. And that's the end of that one. And I felt that one because I feel like we all relate to it. Both poems, as we all know, it's a lot of his stuff that we can relate to, but you just relate to it because no matter who you are, there's times where you feel like alone and you don't know what you're gonna do about it, and you have to find your niche, your way, and what's gonna keep you sane here. But like all of us have that moment. It's like, you know. So both poems though, they relate to me, and I feel like they relate to a lot of us. So, and I just read those, and that's all I pretty much have to say. And one more thing I'll say is Tupac definitely inspired all of us. I don't care who you are. He just did his thing. So, you know, you do what you do. And if you inspire people, people are going to go off of that and realize that you're real. Tupac was definitely real. So that's what that is. And those 2 poems definitely had an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Naiku. You did a good job and you're inspiring the rest of us. Our next reader is Liza Garza. Emmy Award nominated Liza Garza is a poet, vocalist, circle facilitator, designer, and one part of the mother-son singer-songwriter duo with Eli Lakes, who together formally present as Grow. Rooted in a passion for oneness, joy, and the transformative power of love, her art is heart-centered and spirit-led. She holds sacred the power of our inherent knowledge and champions its ability to unveil bridges between the hearts. Garza is a 2019 Intercultural Leadership Institute Fellow. She has served as Arts and Culture Advisor for the Inner City Muslim Action Network in Atlanta and is honored to be recognized as a Sacred Cipher creative. and roster artist, with performances that include the Lincoln Center, the Apollo, the National Association of Latino Arts and Culture, HBO Deaf Poetry Jam, and numerous stages worldwide. Diverse people are finding a home in her voice. Liza Garza.
Greetings, everyone. Peace. Sending love to you all. I feel so honored to be here tonight. What I love most about Tupac is that Tupac was not afraid to feel, you know? He was not afraid to express those feelings, and I'm so grateful to be here tonight to honor his memory and to be with a circle of people who appreciate the ancestors and all that they left behind. So I'm reading two poems of his. The first poem is on page 15. It's untitled, In the Name of Love. Bismillah. Please wake me when I'm free. I cannot bear captivity. I'll wither and die in ignorance. But my inner eye can see a race who reigned as kings in another place. The green of trees were rich and full, and every man spoke of beautiful. Men and women together as equals. War was gone because all was peaceful. But now, like a nightmare, I wake to see that I live like a prisoner of poverty. Please wake me when I'm free. I cannot bear captivity, for I would rather be stricken blind than to live without expression of mind. Give thanks. The second poem I'll be reading is entitled, You Are Ripping Us Apart, dedicated to crack, and this is on page 123 if you have your book. Before you came, the triangle never broke. We were bonded and melded as one. But as the two pushed you away, the one got weak and embraced you, and now you are ripping us apart. The worst feeling of helplessness, the greatest pain has rested in my heart. The vision of heaven fades, and the nightmare of loneliness has started. My hero has been defeated by you, and now what can I do? Watch as you destroy us, and our love is finally through. I know the worst is here. I feel it in my heart. You got into the circle. Now you're tearing us apart. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful reading, Liza. Our next reader is Toddhunter. Todd is the founder and principal of Avenue Literary Services, a company dedicated to taking writers from where they are to where they want to go via editing, book proposal development, ghostwriting, ebook development, and publishing and consulting. Before founding ALS, he spent 10 years at Atria Books, a division of Simon & Schuster, where he played an integral role in the publishing of dozens of books, fiction and nonfiction. Todd received a bachelor's degree in journalism from Temple University and a master's degree in publication management from Drexel University. He's proud to have lived in Philadelphia and Brooklyn, New York. He now resides in his hometown, Washington, D.C., where he lives with his partner and son. Toddhunter.
Hey, peace, everyone, peace. Thank you, Jackie, for the introduction. Thank you, Nahshon, for having me back for another Tupac event. I'm honored. And thank you to all the coordinators. It's great to be among such esteemed guests. I'm here to read a couple of poems by Tupac. The first is The Eternal Lament, which is on page 17. The Eternal Lament. From my mind to the depths of my soul, I yearn to achieve all of my goals, and all of my free time will be spent on the ones I miss. I will lament. I am not a perfectionist, but still I seek perfection. I am not a great romantic, but yet I yearn for affection. Eternally, my mind will produce ways to put my talents to use, and when I'm done, no matter where I've been, I'll yearn to do it all again. And I chose that poem because I just imagined a young Tupac getting these thoughts off his mind, and it's like, I'm about to go get it. And damn if he didn't, you know. So what an inspiration to us all. The second poem I'll be reading is What I See, which is on page 95. What I see. With my eyes closed, I can see we have a chance to discover ecstasy. But the clouds of doubt have made you blind, so you are afraid of the emotions that you may find. I know that you've been hurt before, but this is no excuse for you to ignore the seed that Cupid planted in hopes that we would sow. This infant emotion deserves to breathe, so why won't you let it grow? A neglected flower will wither on its own, it will surely die. But with honesty, passion, and mutual respect, we can soar beyond the sky. So please don't follow what you see, follow the rhythm within your heart. Believe in me though, you cannot see what lies within the dark. And I just thought this complemented that first poem. You know, here we see Tupac changing perspectives a bit, really encouraging others to, you know, not live within their head and just to go after what they should, follow their heart. And so with a beautiful message from a beautiful man. And again, it's an honor to be among you to celebrate Tupac. And thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd, for that reading and that insight. Our next reader tonight is, we've met her earlier in the program. She did our preface, so you've heard her bio. So I'll just simply introduce her, Peggy Robles Alvarado. She is one of my mentors and creative sisters, and we can't wait to hear from her. Peggy?
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you again, Nahshon, and everyone who was involved in this second celebration for Tupac. I will be reading Carmencita of the Bronx, dedicated to Carmen, on page 59, because why not the Bronx? The Bronx made me an artist, so I have a love for the Bronx. Carmencita of the Bronx, you saw innocence at its best. I wanted you more than I wanted me. I remember my last thought at night was of you, and my first thought in the morning was of you. It has been a long time since I've actually sat and adored you, but every once in a while, your beautiful smile guides me through a day. I hear you are with another, and you are expecting. I wish you good luck. He is lucky to be able to wake up to you each morning. See you in heaven. And the other poem by Tupac I'll be reading is Love Within a Storm for Elizabeth on page 85. Love within a storm. We made love within a storm in the midst of passion and chaos. Somewhere, somehow, our true bond of friendship was lost. In the eye of the storm, the rain always falls harder. Those who prevail this trauma will learn to bring their love farther. But now the storm has passed, and the seas of our friendship are calm. But as long as I live, I will remember the love within the storm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy. Our next reader is S to Start. Born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, Stuart Somerville is a graduate of Indiana University, where he finished his undergraduate coursework in 2 years at the age of 18. Stu moved to Los Angeles in fall 2016 to attend USC Gould School of Law and graduated with his Juris Doctorate in May of 2019 at the age of 21. Since then, Stu has embraced his artistic voice, releasing music, poetry, scripted content, and visual art under the moniker S2 Art, building a transmedia tapestry of storytelling. Stu aims to revolutionize our understanding of the boundary between art and intellect. Stu's directorial debut, National Film Festival for Talented Youth, Stu also serves as the Director of Partnerships and Alliances for Aim for the Heart, a California-based nonprofit that envisions an educational system transformed at its core to recognize the value of heart education, the purpose of which is to instill emotional literacy through training in the arts. S2 Art.
I was muted. Sorry about that. Hello. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm Stu. I go by Stuart. You pronounce that S2ART as Stuart. Shout out to Tupac for the inspiration. I've seen his name stylized as 2PAC, so why not S2ART? Anyway, welcome to the wonderful Tupac tribute to anybody who might be joining. This is a wonderful group of artists and thought leaders, and I'm just blessed to be a part of it. So thank you so much. Yeah, you just heard my introduction, so let's get into it. I will be reading a poem from page 10 and 11 called Life Through My Eyes. I think that we've definitely highlighted a theme of Tupac's work being universal. And I think that this poem specifically highlights authenticity and a desire to be unique and a desire to be on a different path and the self-awareness that requires. So let's get into it. Life Through My Eyes, page 10 and 11. Life through my eyes. Life through my bloodshot eyes would scare a square to death. Poverty, murder, violence, and never a moment to rest. Fun and games are few, but treasured like gold to me. Because I realize that I must return to my spot in poverty. But mark my words when I say my heart will not exist unless my destiny comes through and puts an end to all of this. Shout out. Yeah, I think that's, I know we're not dissecting it. We definitely could, obviously, it's been done. But I do appreciate the concept of a micro version of where he's at, but also a macro version of where his journey has been. It's crazy, right? All right, let's get into the next one. God, page 33 and 32, as it were. I like this one specifically, just like off tops because of the illustration. I think that's so dope that he was just doodling, and like it's for real, just like him. Like these are like just his pen strokes. Like, and shout out to Leila and shout out to the preservation of this intellectual property. But I do think that like, I love the idea that like God is right here in big bold letters and there's a sun above it and like all of that. Anyway, let's get into it. God, when I was alone and had nothing, I asked for a friend to help me bear the pain. No one came except God. When I needed a breath to rise from my sleep, no one could help me except God. When all I saw was sadness and I needed answers, no one heard me except. So when I am asked who I give my unconditional love to, look for no other name except God. Shout out to God. Shout out to Tupac. Shout out to y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for correcting that pronunciation. I appreciate you. Our next reader is Bryant K. Oden. Bryant K. Oden is an on-air personality for Birmingham, Alabama's top-rated 98.7 KISS FM. Abby Award-winning news journalist and affiliate producer for the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Oden is a veteran of the United States Navy, previously serving 3 tours of duty in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Oden is highly involved in community service, often volunteering his time with the Birmingham Education Foundation, A.G. Gaston Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, and a host of other nonprofit organizations. Oden's community service work and career have been profiled in the New York Times, and he's an esteemed member of the Birmingham Association of Black Journalists. Follow him on Instagram at Bryant Oden. Bryant?
Hey, peace and blessings, everyone. Yes. Hey, this is just a pleasure. I'm just just grateful. Thank you, Nahshon, for inviting me on again once, to do this and to commemorate 25 years since Tupac's passing. Just extremely influential in my life, and to be amongst other creatives who share the passion and the love of Tupac's, work. So I'm going to be reading one poem here. This is on page 87. It's called "What Can I Offer Her?" Here we go. What can I offer her? All of my life, I dreamed of meeting one with immense beauty. And once I found her, I would charm her and she'd be mine forever. I have found her, and indeed she is all I wished for and more, but she is not charmed nor intrigued. Then I think to myself, what can I offer her? The tears warm my eyes and blur my vision. I stick to my stance of bravado and give her the same uninterested look that she gave me. She was so beautiful, but what can I offer her? Second poem, In the Mist, on page 97. In the midst of passion, two figures stand, emerged in ecstasy, joined hand in hand. The body takes control, deaf to words. It is at this stage that I think of you in gratitude for this joy you have exposed me to. Each day is bright with you as the dawn. With the collapse of each night, a strong bond is born. In the midst of passion, I remember your kiss. I reminisce about your touch, and I suddenly miss the scent you wear and the tone of your voice. Only you can be my choice. In the midst of passion, I see you and me, lost in constant ecstasy. Pop, man, it's passionate. And the last poem I got here is Two People with One Wish. That's on page 99. Two people with one wish. There were two people with one wish, to live a life filled with love. To God they would pray that together they stay under the stars above. But someone else made a wish at the same time, on the same breath. And although the wish for love was granted, so was this evil wish for death. Now I make a wish sealed with the tears and laughter. It is my wish that these two loves are reunited in the hereafter. So that's it for me. And I'm just a big Tupac fan, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Every time I listen to his music, I'm going through the poetry. It's something that still, continues to be revealed. And I'm just grateful, just thankful that he had this art, that's left. And thank you to Leila Steinberg for everything you've done and contributed as well as preserving his art and having it passed on for generations for others to study. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's involved. Thank you once again, Nahshon. God bless you all.
Thank you, Bryant, for that poem and your commentary. It's heartfelt. Our next reader is Land is, let me say that again. Land is Rising. Olin has spent the last several years serving land and water protection front lines while working extensively with youth. Alongside his elders and traditional knowledge keepers, Olin has been building an alliance of land spaces to regenerate the land's life systems while providing youth safe spaces to grow. As Land is Rising, Olin began recording his music written on frontline security and his nation's faith keepers. Land is Rising has strong song medicine for the heart of the movement. Protect the youth, heal the land, feed the people. Land is Rising.
Oh man, yeah, I don't really. It's weird hearing your own intro, man. But yeah, I guess the main part of that intro to probably pay attention to, just I've been blessed to be around some pretty cool you know, elders and people in the resistance movement. And one of those OGs, they were fighting against the tar sands. So, you know, mines basically the size of Texas. And they told me this story that in the 90s, you know, there's this movement called the Native Youth Movement. And there's a lot of veterans, and they would train, you know, people, warriors from different nations, you know, they would train up for different situations where they were needed. And I guess Tupac called into a front line and said, hey, like, I want to support y'all. Maybe I could come up there. Like, what do you guys need? And I guess some of the older people, I don't know necessarily who, but some of the older people, they said, you know what, Tupac, a lot of controversy there. There's some of the lawsuits around that time, and they actually didn't really accept that overture, that offer of help from him. And at least the warrior that I was looking up to, you know, someone who's kind of been like a father figure to me the last couple of years, when he was telling me that story, he said that was a grave mistake, you know, that he thought they missed out on a big opportunity, you know, just to bring things to the culture. And, you know, who would be a better ambassador for that than Tupac? But yeah, let me get to reading these poems. So many beautiful ones tonight. So, the shining star within. Secrets are hidden within the clouds of darkness. And in this place, no one dares to breathe in fear of self-expression. It's been this way forever and a day, until she came to shine with a spark of innocence and questions, only to be answered with darkness. Not just darkness, but the silent kind that steals your soul and kills your mind. There is no compassion for this thriving star, only exploitations and confusion. You saw no hope and brought the end, never acknowledging the star within. Man, if you could only see what happened with Instagram and the clout generation. Okay, I got another one for y'all. The fear in the heart of a man dedicated to my heart. Against an attacker, I will boldly take my stand, because my heart will show fear to no man. But for a broken heart, I run with fright, scared to be blind in a vulnerable night. I believe this fear is in every man. Some will acknowledge it, others will fail to understand. There is no fear in a shallow heart, because shallow hearts don't fall apart. But feeling hearts that truly care are fragile to the flow of air. If I am to be true, then I must give my fragile heart. I may receive great joy, or you may return it ripped apart. Yeah, Lasso Kamati, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, just so nice hearing like that Panther poem. That's like a new favorite of mine. So appreciate y'all. Hope you have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those words, and thank you for the work you're out there doing. Our next reader is Linda, an international multidisciplinary SAG-AFTRA performer, teacher, curator, host, and model from the Boogie Down Bronx. Oh, another sister. From the Boogie Down Bronx, New York. Born out of the iconic house of La Breja, her experimental sound has been articled in both, also been featured in the New Yorker, the New York Times, Time Out New York, and W Magazine. Last year, she graciously performed under the direction of Bill T. Jones and Lee Ming-wei at the Met, and returned to the stage in the Obie Award-winning The Fire This Time Theater Festival. She is currently working on her first studio project, set to include original music and poetry. Lindela's work can be found on all streaming platforms and archived at the Brooklyn Museum in the Nobody Promised You Tomorrow Art 50 Years After Stonewall exhibit. Lindela.
Jackie.
Hey, how y'all doing? Oh, wow. It is so good to see y'all again. Thank you again, Nahshon, for having me come. Thank you so much, Jackie. And thank you all for reading and speaking. So much I've heard in this conversation thus far. I just want to definitely give thanks to Tupac and give thanks to you all for having me and for organizing this and making this happen yet again. And thank you to all that are with us, right? Especially, I think it's so interesting. I just want to say, I'm going to read, I'm sorry, let me not get ahead of myself. I'm going to read page 29. What is it that I search for? Yeah, I'm going to start off reading that. I know not what I search for, but I know I have yet to find it, because it is invisible to the eye. My heart must search for it blinded, and if by chance I find it, will I know my mission is achieved? Can one come to conclusions before the question is conceived? Just as no one knows what lies beyond the shore, I will never find the answer to what it is that I search for. Thank you for allowing me to read this poem again. I think I've been asked to read a friend's work of mine, Nefertiti Asante, a fellow poem from the Bronx. Shout outs to the BX in the building. How y'all doing? You know, she's really just reminded me of the power of coded language, and I love the way that Tupac uses numbers in his writing, and it's just so refreshing to be talking about him subsequent to the VMAs last night, and I think in light of the 20th anniversary of the tragic 9/11 and the passing of Aaliyah, I think ancestors are with us right now during this time. And it feels like we were just together back in June reading this work in reflection of so much that has happened over the year. And it feels like more time has passed than it really has. And what is it that I searched for? I think I really just wanted to read because I think as a transgender person of color, of Black descent, I think that many people within my community don't have many resources or places to go. And I think about the work that I have set forth and what it means to create community and what it means to cultivate and build the family in which you need around you. And to explore those talents. I appreciate Tupac for the writer that he was, for the artist that he was, the lyricist, the rapper, the musician, the guitarist, all of it, you know. And I hope that his work continues to live on, because I know it's inspired me to continue to create space and challenge the norms that we see around us. The next poem I'm going to read, and the last poem, I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time, is in the event of my demise. I want to read this poem because it reminds me of the transmortality rate here in this country, in this world. And I think the two poems really, for me, often remind me, like, where can I go? Where is it safe? Can I live and exist somewhere freely outside of New York or Cali? You know, and I think it also, in light of creating this body of music and poetry, I'm often feeling this angst to complete the work, to get it out, to get it done, to get it to be heard and to be seen, in fear of my own demise. So I'm gonna read this. In the event of my demise, dedicated to those curious. In the event of my demise, when my heart can beat no more, I hope I die for a principle or a belief that I had lived for. I will die before my time because I feel the shadow's depth, so much I wanted to accomplish before I reached my death. I have come to grips with the possibility and wiped the last tear from my eyes. I loved all who were positive in the event of my demise. Thank you. That's all I'm gonna share today. I think I feel like I've said a lot. Thank you all again for having me. I feel like there was more I wanted to say I couldn't remember. But yeah, you can check me out and check my poetry out at lindala.world on Instagram, Facebook. My website is lindala.world. That's LINDALA.world. Formerly of the House of La Beja, starting my own house, check out for that soon. Thank you all.
Thank you, Lindala. We are going to introduce Nahshon Dion. Nahshon Dion, our curator for this evening, producer, and that creative force behind these two periods of celebration, is a multi-talented, award-winning writer, teaching artist, creative director, and arts patron. Sure speaks to discrimination and violence many Black and Brown LGBTQ youth face. She has been published in several LGBTQ anthologies and literary journals. Nahshon has created a uniquely gut-wrenching work that touches on gun violence, mental health, and state terrorism, turning her anguish into art. She's the recipient of dozens of grants, fellowships, artist residencies, honors, and awards, totaling over 180K, that have provided ammunition and support towards developing her forthcoming memoir, Shooting Range: Her Journey to Self-Respect in the Face of State Terrorism and Gun Violence. Shooting Range expounds on anti-femme, anti-trans, anti-queer, and anti-Black sentiment that Nahshon continues to resist. Her existence and resilience show how youth can reach their potential and shine with dignity when their rainbow is blurred. Nahshon Dion.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? When your heart turns cold, it causes your soul to freeze. It spreads throughout your spirit like a ruthless filling disease. The walls that were once down now stand firm and tall, safe from hate, love, pain, joy, until you feel nothing at all. When your heart turns cold, a baby's cry means nothing. A dead corpse is trivial. Mothers neglecting children is daily. Loneliness becomes your routine friend. Death seems like tranquility. Sleeping is never pleasant, if you even sleep at all. You forget ideals and turn off the reason to make sure the product gets sold. You don't understand how I behave. Just wait till your heart turns cold. And the second poem I'm reading is on page 135, and that poem is Liberty Needs Glasses. Excuse me, but Lady Liberty needs glasses, and so does Miss Justice by her side. Both the broads are blind as bats. Stumbling through the system, Justice bumped into Mutulu and tripping on Geronimo Pratt, but steps right over Oliver and his cricket partner, Ronnie. Justice stubbed her big toe on Mandela, and Liberty was misquoted by the Indians. Slavery was a learning phase, forgotten without a verdict, while justice is on a rampage. For endangered surviving Black males, I mean, really, if anyone really valued life and cared about the masses, they take them both to Penn Optical and get 2 pairs of glasses. So, When Your Heart Turns Cold is probably one of my favorite poems of Tupac's, besides In the Event of My Demise. And I think the reason why When Your Heart Turns Cold is one of my favorites is because I would have to say throughout my life, my heart has turned very cold. And so I just think that's a very beautiful poem. And I love that poem. And of course, Liberty's glasses. I find that one to actually be a little humorous. So Tracy Danielle Robinson is, she was supposed to, she's here. Tracy is not speaking, she can hear us. So Tracy was going to, should have been going after me to read her poem. And actually, because Tracy is not here and she's not going to speak, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce her, even though she's not here, because Tracy is a part of this, and so I'm just going to read her introduction. Tracy Danielle Robinson started her artistic production career at an early age. She's always been drawn to creativity as well as organizing events with and for people. In her neighborhood, she would be the one getting the kids together to produce talent shows. She's always had an entrepreneur spirit. She developed summer childcare programs with arts, crafts, reading, and other academic activities to earn money. It was called Tracy's Garage. It is appropriate that her journey has taken her on paths where she has produced creative events that blend fashion, music, and food together. She is widely known for producing music videos for hip hop artists such as Ice Cube, Tupac Shakur, and Lazy Bone, to name a few. She says that music videos are an art form where you can tell stories in a short amount of time using technology, fashion, and it necessarily does not have to make sense. Videos have been a stepping stone for many creative behind-the-scenes talented crews that make dreams come true. Tracy continues to produce various events. She has served on the board of governors for NARAS and for Aim for the Heart. She has an affinity for art education and continues to support educational healing projects. You can follow Tracy on Instagram at tracydanielle_TD, or you can visit her website at tracydanielle.com. So Jackie, I'm just gonna take over just from here for now, okay? Our next person will be Asher, and Asher is going to read his 2 selected poems. So Asher Underwood will go next.
Great. Yeah, thank you again, Nahshon, and for everyone that made this event happen, and for everybody that's read. It's been a really awesome way to spend the memorial. Leila can tell you, we've been organizing birthday events, memorial death events, anniversary events, and it's always a struggle doing the organizing, but then it pays off because you know, you get to go through these poems and hear everybody read it and hear their inspiration. So I just want to say thank you for that, and it's an honor to be here. My poems that I've selected are Fallen Star for Huey P. Newton on page 111, and A River That Flows Forever for Mother on page 125. And I'll say, before I read the Huey piece, these poems that I selected them, they kind of both are very significant to me. Pac's relationship with his mother and the relationship that I had with my mother. She actually took me to see Juice when I was 13. So I was just a kid when I went to see Juice, and I would say from age 13 till even after Pac's passing, I loved Pac's music and was bumping Pac's music, but I just didn't have the full consciousness to conceptualize, you know, what was behind the man and the legend. And Huey P. Newton was the decoder key for me. So when I was introduced to Huey P. Newton and Revolutionary Suicide, his autobiography of founding of the Black Panthers, that's what gave me the ability to really take Pac's music to another level in my life. So Fallen Star for Huey P. Newton. They could never understand what you set out to do. Instead, they chose to ridicule you. When you got weak, they loved the sight of your dimming and flickering starlight. How could they understand what was so intricate, to be loved by so many, so intimate? They wanted to see your lifeless corpse This way you cannot alter the course of ignorance that they have set to make my people forget what they have done for much too long, to just forget and carry on. I had loved you forever because of who you are, and now I mourn our fallen star. And, you know, in Changes, Pac said, you know, it's time to fight back. That's what Huey said. Now 2 shots in the dark, now Huey's dead. I just feel that peace. It just embodies Huey, and it embodies Pac's experience in so many ways to me. The second piece that I'll read, A River That Flows Forever, for mother, page 125. As long as some suffer, the river flows forever. As long as there is pain, the river flows forever. As long as a smile can be, the river will flow forever. And as long as you are with me, we'll ride the river together. And yeah, I just love that piece. And actually, Landon was Rising and I were talking. We were going through looking at poems, what we might select. And he's got a song where he, a reference where he says, veins are rivers. And I just felt like that just, it's, you know, veins are rivers from the ancestors to the present day. So a river that flows forever for mother, I think it embodies it. And that's my pieces. Thank you for letting me read them.
Thank you. Asher, I like how you have the graphic of the book behind you. That's looks like a movie promotional thing. Looks like a press junket, like you're doing a press junket. Okay, so Leila Steinberg is going to go next. I've introduced her earlier. She's going to read her 2 poems. Leila Steinberg.
Nahshon, we can't hear you.
Leila Steinberg is going to go next. She's going to read her 2 poems. Leila.
Thank you. The Sun and the Moon. Your ways are similar to the rays of the sun, warm to many, but too strong for some. The more you are needed, the brighter you shine. Watch for too long and your brilliance will blind. The eyes of mortal men who threaten you with doom regret to see you set, but it's time for the moon. That's my first one. And tomorrow. I love that that through it all, Pac always had hope. Today is filled with anger, fueled with hidden hate, scared of being outcast, afraid of common fate. Today is built on tragedies which no one wants to face, nightmares to humanities and morally disgraced. Tonight is filled with rage, violence in the air, children bred with ruthlessness because no one at home cares. Tonight I lay my head down, but the pressure never stops, gnawing at my sanity, content when I am dropped. But tomorrow I see change, a chance to build anew, built on spirit, intent of heart, and ideals based on truth. And tomorrow I wake with second wind and strong because of pride, to know I fought with all my heart to keep my dream alive. I wanted to say, I know Tracy's on here and she's driving, so she can't read. And I know that she's going through it. And it's a hard day. It's hard to believe it's been 25 years. And it's always strange to participate with people, to analyze, to reminisce, to commiserate, and we lived it. And so it's like to be in it and to be outside of it is a strange thing. And then to think about our accountability, our responsibility, and why we're here, and the role we all played in where we are, and that we're still here with an opportunity to make some differences and some changes. And the Tupac who I knew at 17 and 18 was different than the Tupac at 25, who was defeated and caught up by an industry that's really toxic and unhealthy, and that turns people into product. And it hurts that we didn't see that and understand what we all got caught up in. And so I always show up anytime I can, because I feel our testimony is required if we're going to make change, and we're going to look at who we were back then and what we can do now. And when I connected with Pac, I shared a lot of pain with him and the desire to make a difference in the world. And our timing was important. We were able to play roles in each other's lives to advance our missions and our dream together. And so I feel blessed that there is a body of work that we can have deeper conversation about. And I hope that people do that. And my grandson, who's 16, said that, you know, his age group isn't checking for Tupac. They aren't listening to him. And I told him I thought it was important because we're still making a lot of the same mistakes. And I hoped that he would take a deeper look and consider understanding the role Pac played in our family's life and the world at large. And so before you introduce Lewis, who I think is next, I wanted to say that Stu and Lewis have worked tirelessly to keep the work going that I started with him years ago. Asher has been doing stuff with me for at least, you know, for over a decade now. But since Tracy's not going to be able to go, I asked Lewis.
Leila, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Tracy did just text you and Nahshon and myself and asked if one of us could read her selections. So I don't, yeah, Nahshon said we can. So we have Family Tree on 115 and the Power of a Smile on 81. So I just wanted, before we went to Stuart and Lewis for sure. Which I can't wait to hear Lewis piece.
Let's see. I think that, I don't know if Nahshon has anyone specific, but I have Power of a Smile pulled up, so I can jump on that. And then what I was just going to say about Lewis is someone who traveled with the Outlaws and worked with Pac's group and has taken his work all over the world. And he did two pieces that I think Tupac would have been so proud of. They're original, so I'm hoping that that we can culminate with. It's one thing for all of us to share and to talk, but where are we going with it? What are the solutions? What have we learned, and how do we grow? And I'm hoping that as a continuation of the work that we started together in my living room 30-something years ago, that it would be nice to introduce you to people who are still doing the work with me all these years later. So, the power of a smile. The power of a gun can kill, and the power of fire can burn. The power of wind can chill, and the power of the mind can learn. The power of anger can rage inside until it tears you apart, but the power of a smile, especially yours, can heal a frozen heart. So thank you all for having me. And Nahshon, I don't know if you had someone that you want to read Family Tree before you pass it to Lewis.
Asher, do you want to read it? Asher can read it.
Okay, I'll read it. Reading on behalf of Tracy Danielle Robinson, my good friend. I love hearing y'all's story, Nahshon, that is the greatest story of how you all connected through Pac. So I just want to say that family tree, because we all spring from different trees, does not mean we are not created equally. Is the true beauty in the tree or in the vast forest in which it breathes? The tree must fight to breathe among the evils of the weeds. I find greatness in the tree that grows against all odds. It blossoms in darkness and gives birth to promising pods. I was the tree who grew from weeds and wasn't meant to be. Ashamed I'm not, in fact, I am proud of my thriving family tree.
Okay, so thank you, Asher. So now I'm going to introduce Louis King. Louis King is an international touring hip hop artist, music producer, and educator. His highly anticipated 2020 release, De La West Lost, was labeled The Sound of West Los Angeles by allhiphop.com. Louis has toured in over 20 countries as a performer and tour manager with artists such as The Outlaws, Earl Sweatshirt, Anderson .Paak, and more. Louis has worked with top Hollywood composers such as Patrick Doyle and John Powell on soundtracks including Solo, A Star Story, and Rise of the Planet of the Apes. You may have seen Louis perform in his heartfelt spoken word piece, Where Will I Go, on Chelsea Handler's new Netflix documentary, High Privilege, It's Me, Chelsea. Louis released 156 songs in 1 year as part of a called The Beautiful Grind collection. While he continues working on his art, he's committed to facilitating workshops, assemblies, and concerts in schools, prisons, and community centers with Leila Steinberg and Aim for the Heart. As an educator, Louis has spoken at universities such as Harvard, Princeton, and USC. He will be presenting his TED Talk, The Power of Music and Art on the Heart, at San Diego State University in the fall of 2020, which is past. Louis is also renowned as an award-winning social justice filmmaker who won a Division I national championship at Villanova University. Louis King.
Hey everyone, how y'all feeling? You hear me? Cool? So it's an honor to be here, sharing this tribute tonight and remembering Tupac. Just an incredible influence on me and my journey, and the piece that I choose to share is goes. I exist in the depths of solitude, pondering my true goal, trying to find peace of mind and still preserve my soul, constantly yearning to be accepted, and from all received respect, never compromising, but sometimes risky. And that is my only regret. A young heart with an old soul. How can there be peace? How can I be in the depths of solitude when there are two inside of me? This duo within me causes the perfect opportunity to learn and live twice as fast as those who accept simplicity. And so the second piece I'm going to do is called 25, and this is a dedication to Tupac. And so I'm just gonna go like this. I'm gonna check this out in the spirit of Pac. I'm gonna bring this out right now, all right? And then we're gonna run it like this. Once again, my name is Louis King. Glad to be here with y'all tonight. Come on. In the event of my demise, don't have to shed no tear. I share a vision with the world. That way they knew that I was here. If I don't make it to 25, they'll probably paint collages with my words. Lit the torch, spark the flame, and change the world. Reality is wrong. The dreams it was for real. If only God could judge me, there be nothing left to fear. I share my vision with you. Still in my mind, feel like a blind man doing time. I ask again, is it a crime to fight for what is mine? So still staring through my rear view, still watching as they kill us. They don't care if they can't hear you. The judge won't even look me in my face before my sentence. I told you in 92 about the celebrity apprentice wrote a letter to the president that's freedom in pursuit. Assassinate our leaders, incarcerating our youth. They'll teach classes on my intellect. One day they'll learn the truth. Yo, look, if I don't make it past 25, the Forgive me for my sins, protect me from my enemies, unite me with my friends. If I don't make it by 25, voice of the generation, they'll say, in 20 years from the day, but still ain't fading away. Still got a message to the police. Please try to see there's still a million motherfuckers stressing just like me. I don't make it by 25. If I don't make it by 25, yeah. If I can make it by 25. If I don't make it by 25. If I don't make it by 25. If I don't make it by 25. If I can make it by 25. If I don't make it by 25. If I can make it by 25. Yeah. City with the skinny niggas die, young and black out in these streets, we getting hot. My sisters are getting raped, my brothers facing time. Who knew that we could change it all with just a single rhyme? It's me against the world, I got to find a way. For every dark night, we got to find a brighter day. We got to make a change, let's change the way we live. Let's change the way we treat each other, the way that we forgive. This is strictly for my niggas, it ain't where you're from, that's hardcore. Told you it's the way you throw the fade in the war. I spit up in my camera, shoot my fist into y'all jaw. Just give it all, be true to you, and that way you can never fall. Driven by my ambition as a rider, eternally my mission. More than just a rap musician, if only I make them listen. Voice of a generational day, and 20 years from the day, but still ain't fading away. It go. Shit. If I don't make it by 25, if I can make it by 25, if I don't make it by 25, yeah. If I don't make it by 25, yeah. If I can make it by 25, if I don't make it by 25, if I can make it by 25, yeah. Die for a purpose either, live for a purpose, alright. Die for a purpose either. Live for a purpose, alright. Die for a purpose, either live for a purpose, alright. Die for a purpose at 25. If I can make it past 25, if I don't make it to 25. Sometimes when I pray to God, I ask for help to accept the things that I cannot change and to change the things that I cannot accept. I ain't come here to tap dance, I came to connect. Don't come around here aiming, claiming that you came to protect. What you expect, my allegiance? Want me to win the game for you when you lost my respect? How about just trying to loosen a noose from my neck that you choose to neglect? And no matter what you choose to accept, when I look inside the mirror, know it's the truth that reflects. Looking at me, seeing a face that's black like me. So miss me with all the patriotic shit. How many brothers gotta take a shot? How many pastors got to be assassinated? How many fake it? How many make it to the march? We still here waiting patient, painting pictures of racists naked, clowning, writing scriptures of ancient saviors. How many got to bear the cross? How many we lost? How many even make the papers? They don't play them on the mainstream stations. Not for long. It was the voice of the streets together that sang the song. We stood strong, we own land, they burned crosses on our lawns. How many felt the flames? How many cell phone camera frames? How many press record and watch it as a murder tape? How many can relate? How many rhymes I gotta write? How many times I gotta shed the blood from in my veins? How many wanna live? How many gotta die for change? Thank y'all.
Thank you, Louis. Tracy Robinson she's been listening in, and she is now going to speak. She's not going to appear on video. So Tracy, you need to unmute your phone so that we can hear you speak. Tracy Robinson?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Tracy. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. Thank you, Leila. Thank you, Asher, and everyone who has participated. I apologize I wasn't able to get in earlier, which is neither here nor there, but I wanted to say I chose Smile because I think not only Tupac, his smile is great, and when people smile, you feel good. But I also think that people smile and there's a lot going on behind that smile. And just with emotional literacy and all the different things going on the planet, people losing losing friendships because of your personal thoughts, what you want to do in your life, and still having to smile through it all. You know, I think probably Tupac smiled a lot and had pain. And then as far as the family tree, I do feel like I'm part of a family tree because of knowing him. My feeling for Leila Steinberg is into the star, into the hemispheres, the moon and the planets, and what she does and continues to do. I'm in awe of her, actually. And I just wanted to say that and just apologize because I just, with my life and work, and I just have to say I am sad, and I also just ask for prayers because I don't know. I have a child that I don't talk to. I miss, and I don't get to see my granddaughter. So you can miss people, and they're not even physically gone. So that's all. Just sharing that little tidbit, and I'm sending love to everybody, and just stay positive through this time that we're going through here in life. Amen.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Tracy's birthday was on September the 7th, so just want to wish Tracy another happy birthday. This is her birthday month, so want to send out Tracy some more birthday wishes. And thank you for joining us with just your voice, Tracy. It's fine. Thank you. Thank you for being present with us, even just for the moment. Before I end the event, Dr. Chin was supposed to join us, and he wasn't able to join us. And he was going to read The Rose That Grew from Concrete, which is the actual first poem, I believe, in the poetry book. It is. And since Chin didn't read it, I'm going to take the liberty to read it. So, and besides, When My Heart Turns Cold, this is one of my favorite poems too, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? Proving nature's laws wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else even cared. So I want to thank everybody for joining us again for the 25th death anniversary tribute for Tupac Shakur, one of the world's best rappers. And again, I want to thank the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs for the NYC Artist Corps grant that made this possible. And now I want to turn it over to Asher and Leila. I would love for the two of them to discuss further. Well, specifically, I would love for Leila to talk about her HEART curriculum and emotional literacy and the microphone sessions that her and Tupac started 25 years ago in her living room in the Bay Area. Leila, are you still with us?
Yes. Thank you, Nahshon. I actually have to give a little bit of credit to where my work actually started in arts and activism before I met Tupac. I was in a band, a pretty famous Nigerian band. I always say I was the honorary Nigerian. And the band was comprised of South African and Nigerian artists who came to the US to educate people about apartheid. And I thought I was in the band because I was talented. And I later think I learned that it wasn't as much that I was talented because I couldn't hold it next to the incredible women I sang and danced with. But I was learning how powerful the voice is and how as artists, we could hit large groups of people to mobilize behind causes. And so I got very involved in the anti-apartheid movement. And that helped me to understand that if I could organize music and events, I could help impact change. And it was just something that meant so much to me as someone who was identity challenged, who was trying to find my way as a young mother. And after I began to tour with the band, I started these workshops in my living room. And I was trying to look at what I could personally contribute to help us have a better world. And I kept coming up with that poor communities don't get financial education or literacy, and nobody seemed to have emotional literacy. It didn't matter if you were from privilege or poverty. It seemed like everywhere I went, people were fucked up and had trauma and didn't know how to communicate and didn't know how to manage their pain. So I wanted to create a process where we could have deeper conversation and address our hearts. And it was formative in the late 80s. I didn't know that I was developing curriculum, but I really just wanted to gather young artists, give topics that we could all write on and create a blueprint for assemblies in the schools. So although I did get caught up in the entertainment industry, I always wanted to do activism and education. And that first year, Tupac joined us. And what he offered me was a way to think collectively, because at that time, I really felt I was in charge and I thought I had answers, and I always gave all the assignments. And because of Tupac's background and being raised as a young Panther cub, he actually had more knowledge about what it was to work collectively with a group of artists. And so I did learn a lot working with him, although I was the elder and the mentor. I still learn from students, and I began to see that working across all of us and all of our contributions, that we could create a way to teach about the heart. And the mind follows the heart. So I felt like if I could get the hearts of the youth, I could have an impact on their minds. And then I began to listen to the group, and we collectively began to come up with topics. So now, 30-something years later, I actually do have a curriculum that some of the women I've been teaching with for years helped me develop. They both have masters and PhDs. I never finished college. I was too busy mothering and grandmothering so many that I haven't gone back to school to finish. So I had to surround myself with people that had degrees that I didn't complete, so that I would have the credibility I needed to penetrate the system. But after 30 plus years in the system, working in the prisons, in the schools, I really, I'm pulling away from the entertainment industry so I could focus on really shifting how we look at education, and really hoping that collectively we can spread heart work, and that what Tupac did offer was an unconditional love for all people, but a fight for Black people, and for all of us to acknowledge the suffering of Black people in this country, and brown people, and all oppressed people. And that if you are not part of the solution, you are the problem. And that that we have to do this collectively, that we have to be all colors, all people, and that it's a global fight for oppressed people, and that we have a responsibility to embrace everyone's humanity. And it's tangible, and we can teach one another to care and to have empathy and to love one another as our sisters and brothers. And so, you know, I'm about to turn 60. It's very weird. I can't believe that, you know, he's been gone this long, and I feel like the work is really just starting, that I've spent all this time having to examine myself and work on my flaws, so that I don't have to be a contradiction. And I don't think Tupac got to the point where he passed his own contradictions. emotions. He didn't get to grow old enough to work through them, and we're all things that we have to face inside of ourselves. So I feel like I'm older now and I can be more honest with myself, and I want to offer that. So any of you that have kids in school or have connections to schools that can expand the curriculum or want to learn or do the training, please hit me up, and I'll speak anywhere to young people at any time I can offer anything. And I appreciate you so much for organizing this, and thank you all for having me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Leila. Thank you very much. At some point, what does that look like for the curriculum? How can your, besides what you do with AIM, and you go into the prisons and you work with young people, you work with what you consider them to be Brenda's babies. You do a lot of work on behalf of Brenda's babies, which is in reference to Tupac's rap song, Brenda's Got a Baby. How would it be possible for your curriculum, heart education, to be offered on a much larger scale to younger people? What does that look like? How does that work?
A lot of it is, I'm going to need funding, which I'm working on, and I'm going to need to train a lot of people so that I can have a sustainable program, because I want this to live long past me being here. And I've done a number of trainings, so there are people now who are taking the process, and many of whom do a better job than me and have taken the body of work and been able to implement and expand the work and are now doing it. I never imagined I could take the process and do it one-on-one or in counseling departments. And so now it's a living, breathing process that I'm seeing expand beyond what I thought when I started it could be. And so in these next couple years, I want to really do a lot more trainings so other people can take and do their own versions of the process. And it's housed under our nonprofit, but I feel like people can take it and do the training and do their own thing with it. And that, it's going to require all of us being committed to emotional education and emotional literacy, and just expanding heart work and understanding what tolerance and empathy bring. And that that's part of our requirement as human beings, that we begin to embrace people and their differences, and that we honor one another. And so, I'm hoping I've recruited you and that you'll help us do some more funding and programs. And we've been on Zoom all summer. Lewis and Stu led a lot of workshops from the Bahamas to Long Beach to Chicago. They've been continuing to do the work. Even when I wasn't available, they've taken it and done it on platforms I never imagined were possible. And so I just want to grow it and keep doing the work. And I do feel like it's part of the work with Pac and a number of other artists who want their art to do more than entertain and are committed to activism and change and healing our planet. And it's a personal responsibility that we heal ourselves. There's no saviors. Nobody's going to come and heal us. We have to learn to be important to ourselves and know that we're worthy, and to do the work of excavating the pain and the trauma and showing up for ourselves. And we need examples. And no one learns to love oneself by oneself. We need reminders. We need people to show up for us and show us we're valued. That's how I learned to find value in myself, was with the help of others who kept showing up and letting me know that I was important. And so that is part of the process, and embedded in the curriculum is that we learn how to validate one another and show up for each other. And so I just want to keep spreading it and expanding it. And so anytime, I have an opportunity, that's what I'm doing. And so I thank all of you for being here tonight, and for us having this time to honor Tupac and his heart. And that is what people say about him and why they love him, is he gave you his heart, flawed, broken, hurting, And often, you know, his behavior was acting out because he was a hurt child and because he had been through so much. And so you saw the strong Tupac, the fighting Tupac, and also the irresponsible Tupac and the rebellious Tupac. But he gave us his heart in its fullness. And I just want to keep spreading that so that we don't have to be a broken people anymore. And this virus is here also to teach us lessons. All of this chaos, the fires, the water, is so that we go inside and we look and we begin to show up for our neighbors, our communities, and the planet. So thank you all for having me today.
Leila, I just have one more question, and well, I guess it's a question comment. Would you agree that if more young people were exposed to emotional literacy, heart education, not necessarily heart education, but just emotional literacy, period, do you believe that more, the prisons wouldn't be as full as they are, and there wouldn't be so many youths who are, you know, die young?
Absolutely. I think it needs to be required in our education. I believe we need to rewrite our educational script. I believe that we all need to understand the geography of our emotions, and the heart is the most fascinating thing that we have. Everybody is born wanting to matter and to be loved. It is the greatest gift and the most challenging thing for all of us. And nowhere in our education did I ever see that that was something that was valued or taught. I do believe that's changing, but when I went to school, no one ever said anything about learning emotions, managing emotions, and it's not just for the self. Emotional literacy requires us to read others, to understand others, to read rooms, to read society, to look at culture, religion, race. And I think that the more that we look at that, the more all of us will want that, and we'll suddenly begin to look at everything in that framework, because all of our dysfunction comes from emotional problems. Emotional trauma creates disease in the body. And then we can also look at systems and the failure of systems and why our systems are filled with Black and brown people, and you know what colonization has done to the whole planet. And so there are bigger issues, but if we start with understanding the tenets of emotional literacy and emotional education, then we begin to care about bigger problems. Then we begin to examine the systems of oppression, of the body, of the nervous system. And so it becomes a much larger conversation, but it's as simple as having a group of kindergartners look at what it means to feel, to be happy, what is anger. And part of my growing and learning about this was working in the prisons. And over and over and over again, I would meet young people who thought anger and violence were the same thing and didn't understand one was a feeling, the other was an action. And then I began to deconstruct those things and realize, shoot, we never even talked about these things. How can someone learn about them when they've never been discussed? So a lot of my work and my passion is to help people look and begin to analyze ourselves and society at large.
Thank you. For me, emotional literacy is very important to me, and it's been the key to my survival as a teen, someone who experienced gun violence. I dealt with a tremendous amount of rage, anger, just a tremendous amount of emotions that I wasn't prepared to deal with. My family wasn't prepared to deal with. That communities around the world are not prepared to deal with. I would say mental health issues, where a lot of rage and anger.
You froze.
Oh, I froze. Am I still frozen?
Unless it's just me.
Oh.
Can anyone hear Nahshon?
No, Nahshon froze.
Froze.
There you go.
Am I still frozen?
No.
I'm not. Oh, okay. I was saying, to me, emotional literacy is very important, and it's been the key to my survival as someone who survived gun violence as a teenager, and having to move forward with the court system and just the memories, having post-traumatic stress disorder. There was nothing that could prepare me for the different emotions that I would feel, and the things that would trigger me, and the things that still do trigger me. And with time, I became much more better at coping and just understanding my emotions and my feelings and my anger. And like you said, anger is a feeling, and violence is an act. So that's the reason why I wanted you specifically to discuss more about the emotional literacy in your heart curriculum, is because again, it's been the key to my survival, and I know that it would definitely help a lot more younger people, because they're not having these conversations. I mean, some people are having these conversations, but not to the degree that they're needed. So I want to thank you again, Leila, for joining us and for participating and for co-writing a beautiful book with Tupac Shakur. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And so now, Asher still here? Asher, I want you to talk about the Truth About Tupac community, when you founded it. Can you give us a little bit more backstory on that history?
Sure, yeah. So I guess long story short is I had become a fan of Tupac from when I was young, I mentioned. And then at some point I became really interested and involved in different forms of activism, and hip hop as a whole had really influenced my life, graffiti art. And it was interesting because of where I grew up. And Texas, you wouldn't think it, but just how he was raised up and experiencing hip hop as a culture. So when I started like really developing, I would say, revolutionary consciousness, and like reading into Malcolm's own words and Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail, and Black Elk, and Huey P. Newton, revolutionary suicide, and Manning Marable, and just different like really prolific like revolutionary writers and teachers, Pac's music started resonating very differently with me and to me. It was like putting on the 3D glasses, you know, instead of just watching regular, you know, once you have that consciousness. So I ended up relocating to Seattle, and in Seattle, I got involved in the University of Washington, and there was a course that was offered there on Tupac's history called The Textual Appeal of Tupac Shakur. And I was like, wow, there's a class here on Tupac. Like, I'm gonna check it out. So I got involved, and it turns out that the lady that had started that class, was in the class that Leila had facilitated at UC Berkeley with Arvon Washington, started the course there in the Comparative History of Ideas program. And the program itself was unique because it was birthed out of the American ethnic studies and the African-American and the Chicano and American Indian movement type studies that all came about when the Black Panthers, Aaron Dixon and some gentlemen took over a building on campus at gunpoint and demanded, like, you know, African studies and cultural studies, the LGBT, everything that came out of that program birthed Comparative History of Ideas. So it's kind of like a revolutionary program in and of itself. And then we had a course on Tupac. And so I was really fascinated, and still have always been really fascinated with like archetypes, in terms of like mythological archetypes, you know, revolutionary leaders and their influence, organizations, and, you know, what drives and inspires movements and organizations. And so that's where my undergraduate thesis was born out of that experience and culmination of experiences. And it's basically the summary of it, as you read in the bio was comparative mythology through the contemporary context of Black Jesus, Machiavelli, and Tupac Amaru. So Tupac's indigenous namesake and the influence of that aspect of the revolution on his consciousness, the archetype of Black Jesus, and then Machiavelli and him taking on the form of Machiavelli and political and military philosophy, and then all of the writings that come with to contextualize that understanding, from the Art of War, you know, Sun Tzu and the Prince and Foucault and just, you know, Frantz Fanon, all these different like legacy writers. And it just kept advancing that thesis to, went out to New Mexico to work on my graduate studies. And I still pursued interdisciplinary studies and looked at how I could apply it with business management and administration through the art of story and marketing with an emphasis of social media and the internet. And in 2007, I published my, or copyrighted my graduate thesis. And then I sent a copy to Leila. And then I formed the website. It just came to me an idea as an acronym, Truth About Tupac, to organically organize, develop, and revolutionary economic and media systems, is the Tattoo Dreams. Because Tupac had a song with the Outlaws called Tattoo Tears. And in the song Tattoo Tears, he says that there won't be any peace till there's no more fiends on the Cali streets. And he, you know, dream of seeing his family and, you know, wealth and happiness and like, you know, wholeness. But then these drugs and, you know, these institutions and these systems of oppression wake up to the reality, and that's the Tattoo Tears. So the Tattoo Dreams is like, you know, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X had a dream, Bob Marley had a dream. It's imprinted in your brain. Tupac had a dream. A tattoo dream is imprinted in your brain. You wake up, you can't wipe it off. And so you just continue the movement against all odds and whatnot. So we formed the website, and it was a forum to discuss the truth, the two truths about Tupac. One, what's the truth of, people want to know what really, you know, what happened to Pac, you know, was it a conspiracy, was he alive, like all that sort of aspect of Pac's death or life. And then the second component was, what's the true message of Pac's movement? You know, the revolutionary consciousness of his message, the spiritual elements of his message. So the website was created as an open forum for fans to come together and discuss, to debate, you know, to go over lyrics. And, you know, I even see there's somebody on the thread, little homie, been part of Truth About Tupac for 12 years now, you know? So it's been a long time that we've been doing it, and it's been a nice ride. Been a lot of different stories and adventures and episodes, but that's kind of the overall synopsis, I guess, unless you have any other questions.
No, that pretty much answered it. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us tonight. I was disappointed that you didn't join us in June. I know you've been traveling and you've been on the road a lot, and I'm sure you were enjoying your summer, but appreciate you making time for tonight and for also promoting the tribute to the Truth About Tupac community. So
absolutely.
Now,
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I want to open the floor up for comments. And did Louis King or Land is Rising, or did any of the other participants, anybody want to discuss anything, or feel free to comment?
I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight and taking the time to, you know, remember Pac, and appreciate everybody. Thank y'all.
I had a quick question for Leila when she gets back. And Hassani Gooding, how's everybody doing? Yeah, Leila, I have a quick question. When did Tupac like transition from, because you was his first manager, right? When did he leave you and moved on? Let's say, was that around Me Against the World? I don't know. But
no, he didn't leave me. I left, but I would say that by 92, 93, I was pretty pulled out of the business. I never really wanted to manage.
Right.
All these years later, I'm still managing, and it's usually in the beginning stages of artists' careers that I've worked until they were solid, and then moved on to help facilitate the next career.
Right.
I still stayed connected to the whole camp, but it got pretty hectic. By 94, things just got messy. There were cases, and that's why I said when we first started talking that this industry is really toxic. It's horrible, and we celebrate bad behavior. We don't hold people accountable.
Right.
We give people passes, myself included. And now that I'm old enough to know better and to analyze those times, I definitely work differently with artists and hope to have a lot more conversations that address what happens with celebrity and fame and what it does to people.
Right.
But I never felt like I was passionate about doing business in the music industry. I was really an artist and an educator who happened to believe in artists that I knew, and I could navigate the business, and I could utilize my privilege to get in a lot of doors. So that's really what that was about.
Right.
But
yeah, because this book I have right here, I think A Thug Life, I forgot who wrote it, forward by Chris X. And it really it was a lot of interviews with Pac himself, and it was like he seemed like more of the helpful, like he said he wanted to be an A&R, the next Paul McCartney kind of guy. But I'm more interested in far as artists is like who, when you get a creative Jew like Tupac, who is responsible for making sure that kind of Jew don't be a problem or a victim to himself, kind of protect him? Like, okay, in a situation, I don't want to throw any stones here, but I just didn't really see. Death Row might have made him famous or made his music quadruple platinum, like he say, or whatever. But when you have an artist that has very creative talent, who protects them? I mean, especially now, like you have a curriculum that you want to do, and it's needed all over. I have friends that do the same. And when you talk about solutions, what is the solutions for an artist? Is it to be, what is it, just famous? I mean, now you got fashion. Anyway.
I don't think that, and that's why I still show up and I still am in the business to a degree. I don't think that that we protect artists. I don't think that mental health, emotional health have been a priority. It's different in sports because you have to keep athletes healthy for performance. Whereas with artists, if you keep them intoxicated, if you keep them at a certain level of dependence, then you can direct them and keep them working for the machine.
Right.
And when I was younger, I didn't understand the things I understand now. So I surely wasn't in a position as someone who entered the industry not knowing anybody before me that was in it. I didn't have mentors. There were almost no women at that time. And so I would like to see a lot more women in the business.
In powerful positions.
I think that, and I'm not saying that it has to be gender specific. I think there could be a feminine energy in either sex, but I think it's required that we nurture our artists, that we understand the priorities of having people healthy, period. And so what I understand now, I didn't understand until after he was gone. And so, you know, I do have that to offer. I hope that I can continue showing up for other people responsible for careers. I'm more interested now in mentoring people who do business for artists than I am in handling artists' careers. And I do a lot of that and will continue to do that. But thank you, Hassani. I remember you from Clubhouse.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Nahshon. I think I missed my other class tonight, but I was glad to be here with all of you. I'm going to skip my Clubhouse mic sessions tonight.
Oh, you guys are still doing that?
Yeah, is that going on tonight?
I don't feel like doing it now.
Yeah. It's getting late. It's late over here.
I'm sorry. We didn't mean to cut into that.
It was better.
You said this was better?
Yes. I'm glad we did this.
You know, I know we just did the birthday celebration in June. What is this? June, July, July, August. This is just 2.5 months later. And I love the book, so I didn't mind, you know, doing this a second round. I could do this 3 and 4 more times. This is, I enjoy it. I enjoy talking about Tupac. I enjoy his poetry, his art. So yeah, this was very easy for me. We do have people who do need to log off. They have other things that they need to take care of. It's 10:30 out here on the East Coast. So what is that? 7:30 in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, pardon me?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Leila, for joining us. Did anybody else have anything to add, to say, or to mention before we pretty much close it up? Because our technical person, Naomi Schleichman, she's with us, and she also has some other things that she needs to tend to. So if anyone wants to say anything, you have the opportunity to now.
Hi, I just have a quick question. My name's Jennifer. I'm a big Tupac fan. I'm 28 years old. And I always felt like, do you think that there would ever be a movie or series depicting this side of Tupac?
There is a film slated to come out on FX that that is focused on exactly that. And I can't tell you how it's going to go or too much about it, but in 2022, it will be released. And so we will see. It's a 5 to 7 part series. They've been working on it for 2 years. And I think there'll be a lot of contributions to this that haven't been included in the past. So I hope that it really does shed light and share some of the things we've talked about tonight.
Perfect. And thank you so much for answering my question.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Tariq Harley. I would like to say hi and thank everyone for letting me be here with you guys on this very, very special occasion. I feel completely honored. It's almost like a dream come true. So just thank you. And I can't wait to see the beautiful things that happen tonight.
Did you just log on? Oh, you did. Oh, we started like, I think we started 2.5 hours ago. We already read, I just saw that you had just registered too. And I was just telling Naomi, I said, we still have people registering. I'm sorry, but this is pretty much the end. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad to still be here. I feel horrible for missing out on all those beautiful performances that I saw on the flyer. I'm in New York City doing some work up here, and I just really got free just now at 10 o'clock, and I'm used to the mic sessions timing, so I apologize for my tardiness and happiness, to be honest. So you guys for your graciousness. Thank you so much.
Do you have a Gmail account?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
You're connected with the microphone sessions with that community?
Yes, ma'am, I'm very new. I've been connected virtually since February, yes.
Oh, okay, so we'll make sure you're able to view what you missed. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about that. Before I keep.
Oh yeah, someone had a question.
Oh,
Yeah, salute to Tariq, my brother. Someone had a question about Gobi. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I would like to. Someone just had a great question about Gobi. I had one of his books. He knew Tupac very well. Do anybody have any updates on Gobi? Or what's he working on or whatever? Thank you.
Hey, just been a pleasure, man. I mean, I just love this, just being in the company of all of you, and just sharing, the poetry, the art of Tupac. So I'm just grateful and just thankful.
I will say thank you again. I think it is always a privilege and honor to be able to remember our idols that are often taken from us too soon and too quickly. More of which we've lost this year. So it feels really important our people and how they've inspired us. So thank you again.
Thank you, Linda. Thank
I'll
you.
just chime in to say it's always good. Just chime in to say it's always great to be in community. Leila was saying that her grandson said that he's maybe that's not a name for him anymore, but his name is still quite prominent. I told my coworker that I was involved with this, and he quoted the entire concrete poem. So I was like, oh, okay. And I'm just gonna say this gives me all the cool grandma points. So it's always a great thing and a wonderful opportunity to enjoy someone and to learn things. I'm very interested in Leila's emotional literacy program. So it was a beautiful evening.
Yes. I want to thank all of the participants, Bryant, Linda, Jackie, Asher, Leila, Peggy, Hiram. Hiram, he left much earlier because he had to go and teach. Todd, Chin Chin wasn't able to make it tonight. Tracy, want to thank Tracy. I may be, and all of the people, Land is Rising, S2 Art, Lewis King, Liza Garza, Naiku. Want to thank you all for joining us tonight in this celebration of Tupac's life and remembering him and his legacy. And again, this program was funded by the New York City Artists Corps and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. And if I forgot any names, please forgive me. And Naomi Schleichman, thank you again for joining us and handling the tech issues. And this is going to wrap it up. Everyone have a good night and stay safe.